My eviction notice is taped to what used to be my front door. 30 days to vacate. The signature at the bottom belongs to Helen Winters, my mother-in-law. Former mother-in-law, I suppose, though she still owns this house, and apparently my misery isn't complete until I'm homeless too. I should probably be packing. Instead, I'm sitting on the floor of what was my living room, surrounded by legal documents that spell out, in cold legal ink, exactly how I went from having everything to having 30 days to find a new life. The papers tell a story of revenge so complete, so methodical, that I still can't quite believe sweet, boring Robert orchestrated it all. But then again, I never thought he'd find out about the affair either. It's been 8 months since everything imploded. 8 months since my husband discovered I'd been sleeping with his brother. 8 months since he set in motion a plan that would strip me of everything, my marriage, my reputation, my job, my home, and most painfully, my children. They live with Robert now, in the house his mother bought him across town. I see them every other weekend, supervised, at a neutral location. My daughter Sophie won't look at me. My son Tyler asks when I'm coming home. I lie and say soon, knowing that the home he means doesn't exist anymore and never will again. But I should start at the beginning, back when I thought I was clever, thought I could have my stable husband and my exciting affair, thought consequences were for other people. Robert and I met 15 years ago in Cincinnati. I was working as a paralegal. He was a junior accountant at a firm that handled our company's books. Steady, reliable, the kind of man who wore the same blue tie every Monday and brought his lunch in Tupperware containers, his mother had labeled. "You need to date him," my roommate had insisted after meeting him. "He's husband material." She was right. Robert was everything a woman should want. Faithful, employed, ready to settle down. He proposed after 18 months with a sensible 1-carat diamond, and I said yes because that's what you do when a good man offers you a good life. The first years were fine. We bought a house in a nice suburb. Well, his mother bought it and we paid her rent, but it felt like ours. Had 2 kids. I stayed home, he worked his way up to senior accountant. We had dinner at 6:30 every night, missionary sex on Saturdays, his family for Sunday lunch. Predictable. Safe. Suffocating. Enter Daniel, Robert's younger brother, back from 5 years in Austin where he'd been finding himself through a series of failed startups and successful relationships. Where Robert was steady, Daniel was spontaneous. Where Robert was cautious, Daniel took risks. Where Robert saw a wife, Daniel saw a woman. "You look good, Jenna," he said at his welcome home dinner, his eyes lingering in a way Robert's never did anymore. "Motherhood suits you." It was nothing. A compliment from a brother-in-law. But after years of being invisible in my own marriage, being seen felt intoxicating. The affair started 6 months later. Daniel had been coming around more, helping with house projects while Robert worked late. We'd talk while he fixed things, laugh at his stories from Austin, share complaints about the Winters family dynamics. "You know Robert doesn't appreciate you," he said one afternoon, installing shelves in the garage. "Never has. Even in high school, he'd get the pretty girls and not notice them." "He notices," I lied. "When's the last time he looked at you?" "Really looked?" I couldn't answer because I couldn't remember. Robert looked through me, around me, past me, but never at me. The garage became our place, where Daniel would work on unnecessary projects just to be near me, where I'd bring him lemonade that turned into lingering conversations that turned into accidental touches that stopped being accidental. "You know this is crazy," I said one day, watching him organize tools he'd already organized twice. "Crazy is watching my brother waste you," he replied. "Crazy is you accepting crumbs when you deserve a feast." The words every neglected spouse wants to hear. I deserved more. I was wasting away. This magnetic pull between us was fate, not betrayal. The first kiss happened in that garage, surrounded by boxes of Christmas decorations and camping gear we never used. Wrong place, wrong person, wrong choice. But it felt right in the moment, felt like being alive again. "This is insane," I said, pulling away. "Probably," Daniel agreed, then kissed me again. For 4 months, we carried on. Afternoons while the kids were at school and Robert was at work. His apartment when I was supposedly at book club. Quick stolen moments that felt more real than the years of routine with Robert. I thought we were careful. Separate phones, cash transactions, stories that aligned. But I underestimated Robert. Boring doesn't mean stupid, predictable doesn't mean unobservant, and wounded doesn't mean weak. He found out through the security system he'd installed without telling me. Motion-activated cameras in the garage, of all places. He'd wanted to catch the raccoons getting into our trash. Instead, he caught his wife getting into his brother. But here's where Robert surprised me. He didn't confront me immediately, didn't rage or cry or demand answers. He planned. For 2 months after discovering the affair, he planned a revenge so complete I'm still finding new layers of destruction. First, he went to his mother, Helen Winters, who'd never quite approved of me, who'd always thought her Bobby could do better. He showed her the footage, laid out my betrayal, and asked for help. She gave it gladly. The meeting happened in her kitchen, I learned later. The same kitchen where we'd had countless Sunday dinners, where she'd taught me her pot roast recipe, where she'd held my babies when they were newborn. Robert had brought his laptop, the security footage queued up. "I need you to watch something, Mom," he'd said, according to Daniel, who heard it from their cousin. "And then I need your help." Helen watched her younger son and daughter-in-law in the garage, watched us betray the older son she'd always favored. When it was over, she was quiet for a long moment. "What do you need?" she'd asked. "The house. I need you to evict her." "Done." "What else?" What else became a systematic dismantling of my entire life. While I was still meeting Daniel, still lying about book clubs and grocery runs, they were meeting with lawyers. Robert had hired Patricia Clement, the woman who'd handled the mayor's divorce, the one who'd gotten the mayor's wife nothing despite 30 years of marriage. "We don't need abuse," Patricia had said. "We just need neglect. And a pattern." So Robert started documenting, not just photos and screenshots, but a detailed journal. June 3rd. Jenna said she was taking Tyler to soccer practice. Drove by the field, she wasn't there. Called daycare, confirmed she'd dropped him off early, claiming she had a work emergency. Her office says she didn't work today. Page after page of my lies, each one meticulously recorded with times, dates, cross-references. He'd become a detective in his own life, and I was too drunk on Daniel's attention to notice. "I always knew you were trash," she said, serving the eviction notice with a thin, satisfied smile. "But even I didn't think you'd spread your legs for both my boys." While I was still sneaking around with Daniel, thinking I was getting away with it, Robert and Helen were consulting lawyers. The house, you see, was in her name. We'd been renting from her through a formal lease agreement, Robert's idea for tax purposes. That lease, Robert's idea, of course, had a morality clause. Grounds for immediate termination included illegal activities, disturbing the peace, or behavior that brings disrepute upon the property or its owners. Adultery apparently qualified. But the house was just the beginning. Robert had been documenting everything, not just the affair, my parenting, or what he could make look like negligent parenting. Photos of the kids at daycare on days I'd said I was home with them. Screenshots of my location showing I was at Daniel's when I'd claimed to be grocery shopping. Records of money withdrawn from our joint account that coincided with hotel charges on Daniel's credit card. "You've been building a case," I said when he finally confronted me, 2 months after he'd discovered the truth. "I've been protecting my children," he corrected, voice calm as ever, "from a mother who prioritizes her sex life over their well-being." The divorce was swift and brutal. Ohio is a no-fault state, but fault still matters in custody decisions. Robert's lawyer, the best in Cincinnati, paid for by his mother, painted me as a negligent mother who'd exposed her children to trauma through her reckless sexual behavior. Mrs. Winters carried on her affair in the family home, the lawyer stated in court, in the garage where her children play. She left them unattended while pursuing her liaison. She diverted family funds to support her infidelity. All technically true, all twisted to sound worse than it was. But what could I say? That I was careful? That the kids never knew? That I used our money for gas to drive to Daniel's apartment? None of it sounded defensible when laid out in legal terms. I got supervised visitation, alimony for 1 year, no claim to the house I'd lived in for a decade, and a reputation in tatters when Robert made sure everyone knew exactly why we divorced. But even that wasn't enough. Robert wanted complete destruction. So he turned his attention to Daniel. You see, Daniel worked for a tech startup, a startup that had just landed a major contract with Robert's accounting firm to handle their books. Robert discovered some irregularities in Daniel's expense reports. Nothing major: inflated mileage claims, personal meals charged as business expenses. The kind of thing everyone does and no one cares about, unless your brother wants to destroy you. Daniel was fired. Word spread through Cincinnati's tech community that he was unreliable, untrustworthy. He left for Seattle 3 months after our affair was exposed, tail between his legs, texting me apologies I couldn't answer because Robert's lawyer had convinced a judge that contact between us would be detrimental to establishing a stable environment for the children. Seeing. My job went next. I'd started working part-time as an office manager when Tyler started kindergarten. Nothing fancy, but mine. Until my employer received an anonymous email with screenshots from the garage security footage. Turns out having sex with your brother-in-law in your marital home doesn't project the professional image companies want in their front office staff. We have to think about our reputation, my boss had said, not meeting my eyes. I'm sure you understand. So there I was. No husband, limited access to my kids, no job, no brother-in-law lover, and 30 days to leave the only home my children had known. The apartment search was humiliating. With an eviction pending, no job, and limited funds, my options were bleak. I'd go to showings in the only business suit I still owned, trying to look responsible while landlords ran credit checks that revealed the truth. "Recent divorce?" one property manager asked, scanning my application. "Yes." "Messy?" "You could say that." He looked at me with pity mixed with judgment. "We'll need first month, last month, and double security deposit. Cash only. $4,000. I didn't have for a roach-infested studio in a building where police sirens were background music. I took it. "Where will you go?" Robert asked during a supervised visitation exchange. Not gloating, just curious. He'd become a stranger in his victory. Calm, distant, utterly without mercy. "I'll figure it out," I said, trying to sound confident while Sophie clung to his leg and refused to come with me for my 4 hours of supervised time. "Daddy, I don't want to go," Sophie whimpered, the words cutting deeper than any knife. "Can't I stay with you and Mama Kate?" Mama Kate. The name was deliberate, I knew. Robert's new girlfriend had probably encouraged it, establishing herself in my place while I was reduced to being just Jenna in my own daughter's mouth. "Sophie, I'm your mother," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "I know," she said, but her grip on Robert's leg tightened. The supervisor, a tired-looking woman named Denise, intervened. "Sophie, it's time for your visit with your mom." "We're going to have fun at the play center, remember?" Fun. 4 hours in a supervised visitation center with broken toys and stained carpets, making forced conversation while Denise took notes on my parenting capability. "I'm sure you will." "You're resourceful," he paused. "That's what Mom said when she suggested the eviction. That you're too resourceful to ever really suffer. But I am suffering. In a studio apartment in a bad part of town, working retail for minimum wage, seeing my kids 8 hours a month under the watchful eye of a court-appointed supervisor. suffering in ways Helen Winters probably can't imagine and Robert no longer cares to see. The worst part is how methodical it all was. How Robert, boring, predictable Robert, had orchestrated every domino to fall exactly right. The man who couldn't plan a surprise party had planned the complete destruction of my life. I found out later he'd kept journals. Detailed accounts of every lie, every deception, every time I'd come home late with weak excuses. He'd known about the affair for 2 months before that camera caught us. Had suspected for longer. But instead of confronting me like a normal person, he'd waited. Gathered evidence, built alliances, struck when he could do maximum damage. Why? I asked him once during mediation. Why go to these lengths? Why not just divorce me and move on? Because you made me a fool, he said simply, in my own home. With my own brother. You didn't just cheat, Jenna. You humiliated me, and you did it thinking I was too boring to notice, too weak to respond. You mistook kindness for weakness, routine for stupidity. That was your error. He leaned forward then, and for the first time since discovering the affair, I saw emotion in his eyes. Not love, not even hate. Something colder. Do you know what it's like to watch security footage of your wife with your brother? In the garage where our children learned to ride their bikes, where we hung Christmas lights every year, where Sophie took her first steps. I couldn't answer, couldn't look at him. I threw up, he continued. Then I watched it again. And again, until I could see it without feeling anything. That's when I knew what I had to do. Destroy me? No. Show everyone exactly who you are, including yourself. The mediator shifted uncomfortably. Even she seemed unsettled by Robert's calm recitation of pain, transformed into purpose. Daniel won't speak to me now. Blames me for ruining his life, though we both made the choice to betray Robert. He's in Seattle, last I heard, working at a bar and living with roommates at 35. His family won't speak to him. The Winters clan circled their wagons around Robert, casting out the brother who'd committed the unforgivable sin of touching what belonged to another. And me? I stock shelves at a big box store from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Sleep while my kids are at school, wake up to an empty apartment and the knowledge that I traded everything for 4 months of excitement with a man who blamed me the moment consequences arrived. Sophie started calling Robert's girlfriend Mama Kate last month. The supervised visitation monitor noted it in her report, noted too how I'd flinched, how Tyler had looked between us confused. Robert's dating a teacher from Sophie's school. Blonde, pretty, age-appropriate. The kind of woman who'd never risk her children for an affair. It's good for them, the monitor said gently when I broke down after the visit. Having a stable female presence. I wanted to scream that I was their female presence, their mother, their stable force. But was I? Had I ever been? Or was I just another person who'd put my own needs first and called it self-care? My mother visits sometimes. Sits in my studio apartment with her purse clutched on her lap like she's afraid the poverty might be contagious. You had everything, she said last week, watching me heat soup on a hot plate because the stove doesn't work. A good husband, beautiful children, a nice home. How could you throw it away for... What? What was worth this? I couldn't answer. Because looking back, I can't remember what Daniel offered that was worth losing everything. Excitement, novelty, the thrill of being desired. It all seems so stupid now, so childishly selfish. He planned this, I told her, needing her to understand. Robert planned every bit of my destruction. So what? She snapped, surprising me. You planned every lie, every deception, every betrayal. The only difference is he was better at it than you were. She left without hugging me goodbye. I'm down to supervised visits with my own mother now, too. The eviction notice flutters in the air from the heating vent, another thing that barely works in this place. 30 days to vacate the house Helen owns, the house where I raised my children, the house where I destroyed my marriage in the garage among the Christmas decorations. I'll move, of course. Find another apartment, probably worse than this one. Continue my shifts at the store. See my children for their allotted 8 hours monthly. Exist in the life I created through choices I made thinking I was too smart to get caught. But I did get caught. By a boring accountant who turned out to be neither boring nor weak. Who loved me enough to give me everything, and hated me enough to take it all back with interest when I proved unworthy of either emotion. The best revenge, Robert told me during our last conversation, is showing someone exactly who they are. You thought you were better than this life, better than me. Now you get to see what better looks like. He was right. This is what better looks like when you trade good for the promise of great and end up with nothing. When you mistake steady for boring, faithful for weak, love for something you're entitled to rather than something you must tend. Helen will rent my former home to a nice family. Robert will marry Kate, give my children the stable mother I couldn't be. Daniel will build a new life in Seattle, far from the brother he betrayed. And I'll be here. Or somewhere like here. The cautionary tale whispered about at PTA meetings. The reason Robert's second marriage looks so blessed, because everyone knows what his first wife did and pities him for surviving it. That's the craziest revenge, really. Not the eviction or the job loss or even the custody arrangement. It's that Robert made me see myself clearly, showed me exactly what I was worth when stripped of his protection, his stability, his boring, beautiful love. Turns out I'm worth exactly 30 days' notice and a studio apartment with a broken stove. Robert didn't destroy me, he just stopped saving me from myself, and that, I'm learning, is the cruelest revenge of all.